Have you ever stopped to wonder what happens on the loneliest, most deserted roads in Mexico when the sun goes down? Picture yourself crossing these isolated highways in the silence of the night, where the asphalt seems endless and fear begins to seep through the cracks of the truck cabin. These aren't just fleeting scare stories. They're accounts from truck drivers who, when facing the unknown, saw their certainties crumble. Here, we're not just talking about common dangers, but something that shakes the deepest beliefs of those who have encountered a ghostly van, crossed paths with spirits, or faced creatures that defy logic. Tales of terror and mystery that few dare to share. Ready to uncover the darkest side of Mexico's roads? It was a night like any other, one of those where the roads stretched endlessly in front of Jose, an experienced trucker, hardened by countless journeys across borders. He hauled a bit of everything, but this time his route took him to Mexico, specifically to Tijuana. The calm of the night started to waver when, in the distance, a white van appeared in his rearview mirror. At first, it seemed like just another vehicle like him, crossing those roads. However, as he moved along, the van stayed behind, never passing him but always there, at a disturbing distance. The strange part was that, despite the chase, Jose never saw the driver. It was as if the van appeared out of nowhere, always sticking close to his truck, curve after curve. The pursuit went on, and as time passed, Jose felt something was seriously wrong. He slowed down, waiting to see if the vehicle would pass him, but it didn't. The van simply adjusted, maintaining a chillingly calculated distance. Suddenly, the van pulled up next to him, forcing him to slam on his brakes at the side of the road. At that moment, an eerie silence filled the air, and Jose breathed heavily, trying to make sense of it all. He looked at the van again, expecting someone to get out or at least wave, but all he found was emptiness. As he opened his door to step out, he felt an inexplicable chill that chilled him to the bone. Then, to his total shock, Jose discovered that there was no one behind the wheel. The van was there like a specter, defying the laws of physics and reason. On impulse, he turned back to his truck, sensing that here, normal was no longer in play. As he tried to restart the engine, he realized his hands were shaking and that the van now seemed to dissolve into thin air, like a ghost vanishing into the darkness. Experienced truckers know some phenomena have no explanation. But Jose, despite believing in some stories, couldn't wrap his head around what he had just witnessed. In that moment, he felt an unease, as if something was watching him from afar, something beyond just a mere white van. Jose continued his journey, but the feeling of being followed lingered, as if the road had become a labyrinth between reality and the paranormal. The van's lights still glimmered in his memory, and each time he saw headlights in his mirror, his heart raced, reminding him of that presence that insisted on following him. In those minutes, the stories of haunted roads came to life, and he felt that, somehow, that experience was a kind of warning, something he didn't fully understand, but that would haunt him. Upon arriving at his destination, Jose avoided speaking of what happened, though the story spread among trucker friends, generating a mix of fear and fascination among those who heard it. Later on, news emerged that a similar van had been found abandoned, and the story took a new twist. Local newspapers reported that the van held a grim secret. Inside, the bodies of students who had disappeared years before were discovered. That seemingly innocent van bore a past of pain and despair, a mystery the authorities tried unsuccessfully to unravel. It was as if the van was cursed, trapped in an endless cycle of pursuit and memory. Jose now understood that he had witnessed something no one should see, and the silent road kept that secret with him. Truckers, after hearing this story, began avoiding certain stretches of road at night, and those who still dared to journey along those dark and winding roads carried more than just their loads. They carried the memory that not everything seen on the road is real. Yet even what seems like an illusion can follow you home. Amid nervous laughter and suspicious glances, many admitted that a trucker's life consists of more than just highways and stops. There's something more there, something that defies logic. As night falls, the headlights of any given vehicle could just be that, or maybe something far more unsettling. In the end, for Jose and his colleagues, the road had become more than just a place to work. It was a stage where the unknown could appear at any moment. Truckers like him learned to respect the silence of the night and the secrets it holds. Between a coffee and a quick chat at stops, these strong-spirited men wondered if the roads really chose them, or if they were destined to cross them, mysteries and all. And so each journey carried a touch of curiosity and dread, an invitation to what lay ahead. Gerardo was a simple man, one who saw the world through the windshield of his truck. On roads he'd traveled longer than he could remember. On one of those ordinary nights, on I, he spotted a man by the side of the road, someone who looked in need of help. Experience told him it was better not to get involved, but something about that man convinced him to stop. Maybe it was the vacant look, the weathered face, or the strangely calm way he waited there. Gerardo stopped the truck, opened the door, and without a word, the man got in, sitting in the passenger seat as if he knew the space well. Silence filled the cab. Though somewhat uneasy, Gerardo asked where the man wanted to go. The answer came in a low, almost whispered tone, pointing to a spot further down the road. Curiously, Gerardo drove, but soon realized it wasn't a typical destination. The road seemed to take on a darker tone, as if the shadows stretched longer with each mile. The man next to him remained silent, but his gaze was fixed on the horizon. The feeling that something was wrong grew, and Gerardo started thinking of turning back. But something compelled him to keep going. Each curve felt like a mystery waiting to be uncovered, and he sensed he was not alone. It was then he remembered a story he had heard at a truck stop. An old trucker had told him about a spirit that wandered that very road, someone who had lost their life in an accident and, they say, still sought help on the darkest nights. Gerardo tried to push the thought away, but the weight of that story seemed to become more real with each second. He glanced at his passenger, but found only a cold expression. When the man finally pointed to a dark spot off the road and asked him to stop, Gerardo felt a chill run down his spine. He parked, and when he turned to his passenger, the seat was empty. Confused, he got out of the truck, looking around, trying to find any sign of his mysterious passenger. But all he found was profound silence and the blackness of night. In that darkness, he could barely see a few feet ahead, but felt a presence, something that seemed to be watching him closely, despite being invisible. The hairs on his neck stood on end, and he felt an urge to get back into the truck and drive away as fast as possible. Gerardo knew that something on that road was not of this world. He started the engine and left, his heart racing and his mind filled with unanswered questions. When he later recounted his story, another trucker warned him about the man he had picked up. "That's no ordinary person," they said. "He's the ghost of someone who passed away on that road years ago, but who's still around as if waiting for someone." The words echoed in his mind, though he struggled to believe he had crossed paths with a spirit. After all, the road is full of mysteries, and every trucker has a story they dare not tell. Gerardo, who had always been a skeptic, now found himself carrying a secret, something he would only share with those who, like him, knew the paths of the most sinister roads. With time, Gerardo began to see the road through different eyes. Every journey, every mile driven, now seemed to hide more than just dust and asphalt. He found himself looking at the empty seat beside him, waiting for that mysterious figure to appear again. And every time he saw a silhouette by the roadside, his heart raced, a nagging reminder that the road has its own way of demanding your attention. For Gerardo, with each journey, there was the fear of encountering that passenger again, the silent ghost who seemed to wander the roads, waiting for something that would never come. Now, whenever he heard similar stories, he made sure to listen with respect. The road was not just a means of travel, but a place filled with memories, some lost, and others that, it seemed, would never find peace. One night, when silence dominated the road, two truckers, longtime friends, were crossing a desolate region of Mexico. The trip was smooth until a strange sound echoed in the darkness. a harsh and piercing noise, something they'd never heard before. They stopped on the road to check it out and saw something they could barely believe even with each other as witnesses. It was a creature vaguely resembling a human, but with animalistic features, something between the familiar and the unknown. Its body seemed covered in thick fur, and its eyes, they were something neither would ever forget. The creature seemed to watch the truckers, and a mix of fear and fascination washed over them. Unsure what to do, they slowly backed toward the truck, but the ground was muddy and slippery. Within seconds, the truck sank into the mud, leaving them even more vulnerable. The situation was desperate. With nowhere to run and that sinister figure just meters away, they exchanged a silent look, searching for a solution that seemed non-existent. It felt as if they were trapped, at the mercy of something beyond imagination. One of the truckers, in desperation, began murmuring a prayer for protection. At that moment, what had seemed impossible began to make sense. It was as if they depended on something greater to escape the situation. The other trucker, eyes closed, joined him in prayer, hoping for a way out. Miraculously, the creature began to back away, as if the presence of faith repelled it. Both felt instant relief, a sense of security that seemed to contradict the very reality of the situation. When they opened their eyes, the creature had vanished into the darkness. This episode, which could easily be dismissed as an illusion caused by exhaustion, became a landmark in the lives of the two truckers. Back behind the wheel, they tried to rationalize what they had just experienced. Did the creature really exist, or was it a manifestation of their own fear? But upon looking at the marks in the mud around the truck, they realized they hadn't imagined anything. There were the creature's footprints, silent proof that something, whatever it was, had crossed their path. At that moment, they realized there are places and beings in this world that defy all human logic. For these truckers, the road was now more than just a path. It was a place where the unknown could appear at any moment, especially on dark, silent nights, where reality and imagination seemed to merge. And everyone who heard their story reacted differently. Some laughed, others grew thoughtful, but everyone understood there was something strange and inexplicable in their account. Over time, the story spread among other truckers, gaining new details and versions, as happens with any legend. It was early morning when a veteran trucker, seasoned on Mexico's roads, parked his truck at a remote rest stop for a quick break. However, he soon noticed something peculiar, footprints that seemed to appear out of nowhere and led up to his truck. The marks were imprinted in the dust, as if someone had walked around the vehicle. Intrigued, he walked around to see if he could find anyone, but there was no one in sight. He considered ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of him. When he opened the cabin door, he found a small note with a simple yet unsettling message. "Find us. We're not far." That mysterious message seemed hurriedly written, like a desperate plea for help. He didn't know what to think. Was it a cruel joke or a sign of something serious? He decided to investigate further, searching around the stop for any sign of life. But all he found was an unusual chill, an air that seemed to weigh on his shoulders, as if the place held a hidden story. Suddenly, something in the atmosphere alerted him, and he realized that this lonely rest stop held a secret. Something he was starting to suspect was connected to the message. The story took an even stranger turn when he learned of a local legend, something other truckers shared in occasional conversations. According to old tales, in that same area, a family had disappeared tragically. The Peña Almanza family, made up of a father, mother, and 2 children, had been lost in a road accident years before. It was said that the father, in particular, had never found peace, and his spirit roamed the roads in a perpetual search for his loved ones. It was common to hear that some truckers would see footprints or messages like the one he found, signs left by the restless soul of the father, still trying to reunite with his lost family. After this episode, the trucker began to feel followed, as if an invisible presence accompanied him at every stop, every curve. On the quietest nights, he could sometimes swear he heard whispers around the truck, distant voices that seemed to try to communicate. The connection to the story of the Peña Almanza family felt like more than coincidence, and he began to wonder if his fate was now entwined with those lost spirits. He knew that many on the road shared similar stories, but he had never imagined that something like this would happen to him, someone who had always looked at legends with skepticism. As days passed, other truckers began to notice he was quieter, more thoughtful. When asked, he would only say that the road had shown him something few would understand, something beyond what we can see. For every trucker, the road holds a collection of memories that go beyond the tire tracks. Life behind the wheel brings the weight of exhaustion and solitude. Yes, but it also offers a kind of freedom few know. However, the mysterious accounts experienced by these men reveal that the roads carry more than dust and asphalt. They also house the unexplainable, the paranormal, something that challenges even the most rational. It's not uncommon to hear stories like those of Jose, Gerardo, and so many others who, when facing the unknown, found not only fear, but also a new perspective on what it means to be a trucker. For these men, facing danger is nothing new, and it doesn't always come from something they can see. It's a routine that involves the need to look beyond one's own fear, to keep going even when everything around seems to want to stop progress. Some say that the roads, when night falls, become almost alive, as if welcoming each traveler with a unique story, a test of endurance that few are ready to face. Those who cross these paths, then, are not just drivers. They are explorers of a hidden universe, where the supernatural intertwines with the everyday, making every trip another mystery to unravel. Between conversations at rest stops and tales shared over coffee, these stories come to life, becoming part of the trucker's folklore. Everyone who listens to or experiences something unexplainable carries a piece of this world with them, an inheritance of experiences that few can understand from the outside. And in the end, for many of them, the real weight isn't in the load of the truck, but in the memories and mysterious encounters that linger. After hearing these stories, the question remains, how far does the courage of these truckers go? The road becomes more than just a route. It's an invitation to the unknown, to challenges that can't always be met with strength or skill. And you? How would you handle something like that? What feelings would arise if you realized that the invisible and the inexplicable might be closer than you imagine?